And it's on this note, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to have a fireside chat. And this fireside chat is centered around reimagining Africa's role in the global innovation economy, role of future technologies. And I'd like to invite and welcome again at this time the Honourable Commissioner for Innovation, Science and Technology, Olatunbosun Alake, is going to come forward at this time.
Please, can we put our hands together for him?
Please put your hands together for him.
And joining the Honourable Commissioner for Innovation, Science and Technology is the first Egyptian astronaut. I'm sure you want to hear more about her. So permit me at this point in time to invite Sara Sabry to join us at the top table.
While she's coming forward, her profile is going to be read. We'd like you to focus on the screen as we listen, and the fireside chat will continue.
Sara Sabry is an astronaut, engineer, entrepreneur and changemaker, making history as the first Egyptian astronaut and the first Arab and African woman in space through Space for Humanity's Citizen Astronaut Program. She's the founder and CEO of Cora Tech Labs, advancing AI-driven healthcare for space missions in underserved communities on Earth, and leads the Deep Space Initiative, expanding global access to space research and education. A mechanical and biomedical engineer pursuing her PhD in aerospace sciences, Sara's expertise spans mechatronics, robotic surgery, stem cell research, AR, Formula 3 car design, and bioastronautics. She's also a yoga instructor and CrossFit coach, blending wellness with high-performance science. Sara champions representation, equality, and human rights, volunteering across Africa to empower women, teach, and protect marine ecosystems. Her work has earned global recognition, including the Explorers Club 50 People Changing the World, IAF Emerging Space Leader Award, and Karman Fellowship. Featured on CNN, BBC, Forbes, Vogue, and CNBC, Sara inspires a generation to think boldly, act bravely, and reach beyond borders.
We have in Lagos, they say Eko no dey carry last, meaning that we always come out on top. We are not at the back. You know, everything Lagosians do always ends up at the top. So maybe you can say that for us. Eko no dey carry last.
Say it again, sorry.
Eko no dey carry last.
Eko no le carry
Last.
last.
Thank you. A round of applause, please. So great. I think I'm really honored to sit next to somebody who's very, very accomplished. And I think it's also an inspiration to young people here. And it's, space is something I've always been fascinated about. And I didn't know that early on in life, I would be sitting next to a real life astronaut. And please, mind you, I'm still young. So I say early on. I'm not old. All the Gen Zs here, I beg, I'm still with you, right? But getting into it, please, if you don't mind, could you just do a short introduction of your profile? I don't know if everybody heard, and just tell us what you do, what you've done, and perhaps your company now and what you are doing with that.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Honourable Commissioner. And thank you for being here too, Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor. And thank you so much for everyone being here. It's my first time in Lagos. It's my first time in Nigeria, actually. We've been traveling a little bit around the country, my partner and I, Minna here, who's sitting also here, and a few of our teams. And also, I just want to also say something. I have been honored to be given a Nigerian name. My name is Doshima, and my partner's name is Dofan. So we have Nigerian names.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
So I am Sara Sabry. I am the first Egyptian astronaut and the first Arab and African woman to go to space. My background is, thank you. My journey has been really quite unconventional. I grew up in Egypt. I studied mechanical engineering there. But because I've always dreamed about something that wasn't there, that didn't exist, I was always people always tried to put me in a box, and I never really fit in. I never really fit wherever I was. I never really was taken seriously for having dreams at the scale of they were. But I knew deep inside of me that it was doable, that it was possible, that we should not be limited by whatever people tell us around us. And for me, that's exactly what I did. When I decided to study mechanical engineering, focus on mechatronics. But in doing that, I was told that it would be too hard for someone like me, that I shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. When I wanted to do my master's in biomedical engineering, I was told that I would never have any opportunities in my country. And then when it came to working in the space field, I was told that I was wasting my time, and that pretty much the whole vibe was that I should be focused on just getting married and just that's what I should be doing, not really striving for something that hasn't been done before. No one in Egypt, no one in Africa has gone to space. No one has been selected as an astronaut to go to space. So why would I be any different? Why would a young girl from Africa, from Egypt, be any different in doing something that hasn't been done before? Why? I think for me, I think I'm a little bit delusional in the sense that I think things are doable. My background in mechatronics allowed me to break problems and really try to break them and try to understand how things are built. For me, it's just allowed me to see the world in that way, in the same way. Whenever you see anything around you, every single person here sitting down, everything that you see around you has been built by someone or been built by a team of people, which means that it's doable, right? Try to break it down, reverse engineer things. And that for me is how I treated life. I treated my career in the same way. I decided that if I wanted to use the physics of Newtonian physics and the physics of the world to really try to understand how to solve issues, we had to have engineering. For me, if I wanted to solve problems that exist in the human body, I had to do biomedical engineering because it's a combination of the two. And then when I wanted to think about the future of humanity, this is where the part where it comes into like where people kind of like also ask, how did I get to even wanting to go to space? For me, it was always about asking questions. I had a lot of questions and a lot of questions about where humanity was and where it's going. And for me, the only way for us to have these answers is to have the technology in order for us to be multiplanetary, for us to take that technology back and have those answers. So that's what led me to the space field. I'm doing my PhD in aerospace and I work on spacesuits. I founded a nonprofit in the US called Deep Space Initiative, where we're giving access to people from all over the world to be able to be a part of the space field, because for me, as an Egyptian, I wasn't allowed to be a part of the field. I wasn't allowed to apply to the positions that existed in the field because of policy, because of the laws that have been put in place during the Cold War, during the just when it was more space was more on the military side, on the national security side. But things are changing, and I think policy also, I think that's a conversation that maybe we could also talk about, is that it always has to adapt to the environment. And what you and your office are doing is exactly that. Mm-hmm. Like what you have presented earlier a few minutes ago, it really shows that there's so much listening to what the actual world is going. Yep. And then we bring that back to policy, and it's all constantly, it's a lot of work. Yep. My exposure to this has been very, it's very, very eye-opening. And I commend you for what you're doing, and I commend the commissioner, the deputy governor as well, because it's a really difficult job. Engineering, absolutely. We have right and wrong. We have elegant solutions, we have non-elegant solutions, but policy is hard, I have to say. I have to give you that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. A round of applause, please. I think a few things you mentioned, Sarah, is that this was like you were a little bit delusional. And so I think that's something I've learned today. I think a little delusion is necessary. Delusion in the sense that when people tell you you cannot do this, and you're like, no, I can do it. I mean, it's not that hard. I think I can, scale this. And, thinking of a grand challenge, where is humanity going next? I think people that think in those terms actually do big things. I think I've heard Elon Musk say things like that we need to be interplanetary species, right? And that is exactly what motivates all of these chopstick rockets, reusable rockets and all of that. So it seems you've broken many barriers, right? Where did this motivation come from? Was it from family? Was it from environment? Or was it just an inner core? Could you talk about that in just like 2 minutes?
I think that's a really good question, and I think it's a little bit of both. For me, it took a lot for me to also understand that if we're trying to do something that's big, then we are going to face resistance. And for me, it took me a while to also not only accept resistance, but embrace it. I took it and added it to my equation for innovation. Innovation means taking something that's already established, creating something new, plus the sum of resistance. Because without that, it means that it's not actually innovating enough. And for me, like, I accepted that very, very deeply, and I knew that it was going to be a challenge to break something. But I also have to give it to my parents. My mother, she grew up in Lebanon. My mother is Lebanese. She was one of 3 to graduate from electrical engineering in her country. And she did that despite living through the war. So she after she graduated, she moved to Saudi Arabia to find refuge, and she ended up running an entire hospital at the age of 28. So I had very, very, very big shoes to fill. My mother is definitely someone who's worked incredibly hard. She moved to Egypt after all of that and started a company, and was raising 3 kids almost by herself. So it's a really, really big, to see that there's so much that could be done. My father did the same thing. He grew up in a small town in Egypt, and then moved to Saudi to find work, and then ended up he did everything that he could to give us a little bit of a better life that he had. He spent 80% of his salary on my siblings' education. So I think both of my parents really prioritized education, and it allowed us to really have control over our lives. Education really gave me agency over mine, really allowed me to see the world in a way where it really, if I knew that if I worked hard, that I would be able to achieve something. For me, we were talking about that as well, like with my partner, that it's not about, about being afraid of failure. And, I get asked a question a lot, what is failure? For me, failure is just, failure doesn't happen until it's the end of the road. I think it's when I die, that's I think maybe if I didn't finish a project. Because everything is just a part of the path. Everything is just, you learn from this, you break it, you do it again, and that's a part of innovation, that's a part of the path. So I've never really looked at my failures as failures. And that's actually a thing that I've been thinking about, where I don't actually have that mindset
Right, absolutely. So mindset is very important. You mentioned something that if you start something, there should be some resistance. Otherwise, it's not important enough. And so I think young people can really learn from that. When you start something important, something grand, expect resistance. If there's no resistance, it's probably not as important. But going back to your non-for-profit DSI, Deep Space Initiative, could you talk us through that, what you do, what value you are trying to deliver, right? And how that can help young people?
Yes, of course. So I founded Deep Space Initiative in late 2021, and it actually started because of the inaccessibility that I faced and that I saw a lot of other people faced. When I was wanting to do research in the field, I was doing research in bioastronautics while working a full-time job, while training as an astronaut. It was a very hectic period. But I also thought that one of the difficulties was I was not allowed to have access to the data. And for me, that was, well, you have someone who's motivated, you have someone who's hardworking, who's ready to put in the work, but who's just unable to have that just because of outdated policy. And that's actually all that was. And we ended up at DSI, I'll tell you a little bit more about DSI, but as part of our space law groups, we ended up doing research on that part specifically. And a lot of companies in the United States, for example, are having issues with hiring because there aren't enough talent with specific expertise. So it's about kind of finding solutions here, being creative in the way we're looking at this, being creative in the way we're maybe creating different types of collaborations that are, looking at the space field also, the way that it really is right now. It's not what it was back then. It's not what it was in the 50s. And so I think it's also about that. It's really about looking at it, 70s, sorry. It's about looking at it in a way where we need to constantly be listening to what's going on. So Deep Space Initiative, what it does does is we have research programs, and we have three big umbrellas: astronaut health and performance, space architecture, space transportation systems. And then
Could you repeat those three umbrellas?
of course, astronaut health and performance,
Okay.
space architecture, and space transportation systems.
Okay.
And then under those, of course, there's a lot of projects. And over the years, we've worked on 47 projects. We've had many teams. I don't even know how many at this point. We have a community of over 380 people now, from more than 60 different countries. So we've really published publications. We have had researchers present. We've had researchers, have access. It gave them a foot in the door in the space field, where it was just completely impossible. I have faced a lot of difficulties. So for us and all of us at the team at DSI, we're really trying to make sure that it's a little bit, it's easier, because things are difficult as is, right? Like, I think the world is, difficult. So why make it even more difficult than it needs to be?
And so you are expanding the access to the space field globally, making it more accessible, whether it's for institutions, countries that have an ambition, whether it's going to space or participate in space. And of course, I see you with the likes of SpaceX as well, that are also trying to increase the accessibility to space. Very, 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 very important thing. So, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, right? What do you hope to have achieved? There were some technology companies talking about locating data centers in space now. You understand? Because the vacuum environment and all of that would help with the maintenance. Today, there are power challenges with data centers. Putting it in space, there's the sun, unlimited amount of power. But how to optimize all these things? You need a full understanding of space, right? So is your goal or your vision to be able to make things like that possible or probable? What is the long-term trajectory?
I think for that question, it's split into different parts. So I went on my first space mission when I was 29, so that was 3 years ago. And it was a suborbital flight. And I was training for a year and a half before that, and then I applied to a program. It was the first non-government program that exists that selects astronauts. They selected me out of more than 4,000 applicants from all over the world. And I went on my first space mission. But I'm still wanting to go back. So I want to go back to space. I want to spend more time. I want to eventually represent Africa on the moon and Mars. So in terms of my personal goals, these are that. And then I also recently co-founded a company called Core Tech Labs. So it's a biotech company. We deal with AI, but also training it with African data. I can't really share too much about Cora.
Trade secrets.
Yes, exactly. But I can say that it's quite revolutionary what we're doing. So we're really excited about that. We're excited to also enter the African market through Nigeria as well, which I think maybe we could also, see what we could do there. We're always looking for partnerships. We're looking for like also have conversations about this here in the country. So there's a lot of things. So it's more about accessibility, but on the larger scale. In terms of the medical field, both myself and our team, we've had a lot of experiences in the medical industry, both personally with my family and, from what I've seen in the whole field, in the healthcare system. So we're really trying to make sure that things are being done in a way with the human being with the human-centered design approach and systems level approach to how different systems interact with one another and how the human being comes into play in this loop. Because it's important to add that into the equation when we're designing something to avoid human error, because that could easily be avoided in the healthcare system, for example, when it could really easily lead to the loss of life, which is very easily avoidable. And it's not the fault of the nurse, it's not the fault of the person, it's the fault of the system that is not supportive of that. And there's a lot of things that could be done with the use of automation, the use of just really designing it in a way where things speak to one another. The data has to speak to one another. Things have to really be able to function and work well together. So they have to be put into the equation. Again, talking about equations, they have to be put in the equation when we're designing them. So this is a bit of a sneak peek about what we do, but of course we're doing a lot more that I cannot really share too much now about. But so it's more on that, and also serve both the Earth market And so it serves communities on Earth, and also for future long duration missions, because it's going to be very, very, very essential when we're going back to the moon, and we're going eventually when we get to Mars, for us to be self-sufficient. We're not going to be able to rely on support from medical personnel on Earth. We have to be able to make those decisions
Absolutely.
on the moon,
On the moon.
without, yes.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I think for a lot of space enthusiasts here, I'm definitely a space enthusiast. I've been very, very curious about space since the beginning. But I wanted to pose a question to the audience. How many of you knows that Nigeria has a space program? Do we know that? Do young people know that? I think Sarah does know that. Can I ask, how many satellites does Nigeria have in space? Quick trivia. Anybody? 1, 2, 3. Some people say 1, some people say 2. Actually, we have 2. Right? We have a Earth satellite and a communication satellite. So Nigeria is actually in the space, I wouldn't say space race, but at least in the space field. Let me, in trying to conclude and end, your space flight was with Blue Origin, was it? How did that feel? You know, experiencing microgravity and all of that. What was going through your mind? Because, you know, I've seen it on TV where, you know, everything is floating. I want to eat, the food is the food is floating like this, and you know, how do you pee?
Well, those are good questions. It's really quite unlike anything. I think it's really for me, it took, because I've been working for so long to get there, it never actually felt like it was going to happen. It's almost just like in the moments leading up to it, just because I was just very much on autopilot. So at the moment I was sitting on this rocket, finding the straps in, before all of that happened, I was visualizing it. So when I started wanting to go to space, I would close my eyes every night before going to sleep and seeing myself in this rocket, really feeling myself sitting on that seat on top of the rocket, feeling the harness on my chest. And I did that again and again and again until it happened. And then when it actually happened, it felt also as if almost it was a relief. There was this weight lifted off my shoulders, but then this new weight of responsibility towards the rest of humanity.
Right.
And the rocket launch is just an insane experience. It's huge. It's exactly what you see in the movies, basically.
Yeah.
And when you go up there, you see I was sitting it's like a beautiful big window. So you see the changes in colors. It goes from, we launch in the morning, so you see it go from light blue to dark blue to purple and then black.
Right.
And that's the only thing telling you you're in space. And it's really mind-boggling to have that be the only form of data that's telling you you're in space. And then once you're there and you get you have MECO, you have mean engine cutoff, the booster separates, the capsule stays up, and then you get the okay to basically unharness and get off your seat. And then it's just unlike anything. We're so used to, and it was a moment that I realized too that ever since we're born until we die, like we're always touching, like we're always like, so there's always something that we're touching.
Yeah.
And when there isn't, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize where where your body is, and it's such a liberating feeling, just this liberation. But I feel like the one thing that stands out the most is the view. Is seeing this earth, this beautiful earth, feeling this light that's coming from earth, reflecting from earth onto your face, seeing this very thin blue line and realizing that that's what's protecting earth, that's what's giving us life against this very, very darkness of the universe. It's just an image that whenever I close my eyes, I could see it again. And it really changed how I see the world. It changed how I see scales of everything. Being on the outside of all of it is just really, it broke my reality. It really did. There's something called the overview effect, which is what happens to your brain when you see Earth from space. And my mission goal was to analyze that. So that's why they sent me to space. It was to analyze that, and I had to work for a year on just proving that. And it's really something that, for me as an engineer, I went into it with an open mind, trying to see like, okay, does it actually do to the brain? And it was really, it was a lot more than I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely. I think, and I'm looking forward to some of your work and some of the pioneering research that you are doing to help us answer more questions about life here. But I wanted to ask if you could send a message to the people in the room, the young people in the room, and every young African there dreaming of doing something bigger, of solving a problem, or, just trying to find out where we are going next. What message would you send to them? How should they position themselves? What should they do? What kind of attitude or mindset should they have if they are dreaming of something bigger, to do something, whether it's go to space, start the next billion-dollar company, or or just build something that solves a problem? What message would you send to them?
It's a really good question, and we've been talking about that over the past few days, and especially in our continent, our beautiful continent of Africa. We need to start looking at solutions that are not only short-term, but long-term. Let's look at the problems that exist and try to solve them with the goal in mind that these are long-term solutions, not only short-term gratifications. This is, I think, the thing that we're going to be able to advance, and we're going to be able to really create the technologies that are going to be sustainable and really serve the majority of the continent. But my advice would be to anyone who's trying to do something, and anyone who's who's struggling doing something and feels a lot of negativity towards that objective, don't listen to it. Really always follow your gut, follow the belief and that your instinct. Never, never, never distrust your instinct, because this is what's going to allow you to go far. Your instinct is always going to stay with you. This really gut feeling in your stomach, always listen to it. And the more you listen to it, the more powerful it becomes. And let that serve you in making decisions and really sensing the different partnerships that you're making, the different, how you're going to adapt your product. And another thing is that be flexible with your product. If you have a solution, and if the market is not ready to receive it, you have to adapt to it. And I think as engineers, we're usually so caught up with thinking, oh, our solution is the best one, and we have to do this one. But we have to make sure that the solution is usable for the market. Otherwise, it's just going to not continue. And then you can reach the solution that you had in mind a little bit in the future. So just create a pipeline that works and take it step by step. Make sure that you're adapting, and always be flexible. The market is moving fast. Things are moving fast with policy, with here, with there, with different. Maybe you have a little bit more funding now. Maybe you have more funding later. So just be ready to be flexible, because entrepreneurship is it's a fun ride, and you have to always be flexible. You can change the business plan in a day sometimes. You change it, you move quick, and don't be afraid to be moving quickly. Don't be afraid of the speed, but also don't be afraid to know that it's just about the push. You have to always push. Always look at there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a struggle, and the more the struggle, the more it's going to be.
The more valuable it will be.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think, can we give Sara a round of applause?
Thank you.
I think it's been a very, very enlightening and illuminating conversation. At least for me, I'm sitting next to an astronaut, so I get to tell my kids. So thank you very much, Sara.
Thank you, sir.
We will be inviting you back because there are so many young people that can be inspired by your story, and definitely what you are doing to advance not just accessibility to space, but what that can do on Earth, the problems it can solve. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. And back to our regular scheduled programming. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can we put our hands together for Sara Sabry and the Honourable Commissioner for Innovation, Science and Technology, Lagos State, Mr. Olatunbosun Alake? Can we put our hands together for them, please?